Hello and welcome to Itenert. GDP per capita is one of the best measures of a country's wealth, as it provides an understanding of how each country's citizens live on average, showing a representation of the quantity of goods and services created per person. As you all know, Africa is home to some of the wealthiest countries in the world. The continent is rich with natural resources and has a vast population, leading to high GDP per capita. However, despite this wealth, many countries are still mired in poverty. In this video, we present to you the list of the top 20 richest African countries based on GDP per capita. If you are new to the channel, kindly subscribe to the channel, like and share the video. Let's hear you in the comment box below. Now, here are the top 20 richest countries in Africa based on GDP per capita. Number 20 on the list is Sao Tome and Principe with GDP per capita of $3,930. This is a small country located in the Gulf of Guinea that relies on its agricultural industry, employing more than 50% of its working population. In addition to being a major exporter of bananas, palm oil, and cocoa beans, Sao Tome and Principe also export natural rubber, copra, and coffee. The country's economy has been affected by the decline in their agricultural industry, because of poor soil fertility caused by excessive rain, which decreases crop production. Other factors that significantly affect Sao Tome and Principe's economy are its dependence on foreign food imports. Economic dependency on other countries that use Sao Tome and Principe as a refueling station, and the fluctuation of oil prices affect their fuel supplies. Despite these challenges, Sao Tome and Principe is number 20 on the list of top 20 richest countries in Africa with a GDP per capita of $3,930. Next on the list is Sudan with GDP per capita of $4,080. With a population of 45.70 million people as of 2022 and occupies 1,886,068 square kilometers, making it Africa's third largest country by area, and the third largest by area in the Arab League. Sudan is known for its diversity of natural resources, such as petroleum and mining industry, which account for more than 80% of its exports. In addition to being a leading oil producer in Africa, Sudan is located in the fifth largest oil-producing region, known as the Gulf of Guinea. Other essential industries to Sudan's economy are cotton, livestock, wheat, gold, and agricultural resources, which provide jobs for more than 40% of its working population. However, despite being rich in natural resources, Sudan has been experiencing an economic downturn because of political conflicts and civil wars. Sudan is number 19 on the list of richest countries in Africa. Another on the list is Republic of the Congo with GDP per capita of $4,170. After the profound economic crisis that plagued the country from mid-2014 following the decline in oil prices, the Congolese economy resumed an upward trajectory in 2018, with real GDP growth projected to reach 1.6% after 2 years of negative growth. Growth was driven by the increase in oil production and by favorable market conditions, with oil prices holding steady in late 2018 and the resumption of demand from partner emerging countries. Nevertheless, the non-oil sector continues to decline, contracting by 5.5% as a result of the weakening of activity in construction and public works, transport, and telecommunications. Republic of Congo is 18 on the list. Kenya is next on the list with GDP per capita of $5,270. Kenya, country in East Africa famed for its scenic landscapes and vast wildlife preserves. At 580,367 square kilometers, Kenya is the world's 48th largest country by area. With a population of more than 47.6 million in the 2019 census, Kenya is the 29th most populous country in the world. Kenya has made significant political and economic reforms that have contributed to sustained economic growth, social development, and political stability gains over the past decade. Over 2015 to 2019, Kenya's economic growth averaged 5.7%, making it one of the fastest growing economies in sub-Saharan Africa. The economy's performance has been boosted by a stable macroeconomic environment, positive investor confidence, and a resilient services sector. Kenya is number 17 on the list. 16 is Nigeria with GDP per capita of $5,280. A key regional player in West Africa, Nigeria accounts for about half of West Africa's population, with approximately 202 million people, and one of the largest populations of youth in the world. With abundant natural resources, it is Africa's biggest oil exporter, and has the largest natural gas reserves on the continent. Before the 2016 recession, Nigeria's economy was growing fast at 6.3%. By contrast, before COVID-19 struck, the economy was growing at 2.2%. Inflation was in the single digits in 2014, compared to about 12% in 2019. The general government fiscal deficit was 4.4% of GDP in 2019, compared to 1.8% in 2014. Djibouti is number 15 with GDP per capita of $5,300. Djibouti's economy weathered the initial impact of the pandemic well, averting a contraction. Output expanded by 0.5% in 2020, driven by buoyant free zone re-exports and exports of transportation, logistics, and telecommunications services to and from Ethiopia in the latter half of the year. Yet, extreme poverty increased slightly to 14.7% in 2020. Djibouti's growth prospects, while favorable, depends critically on Ethiopia's political and economic conditions. High global food prices raise a concern about Djibouti's food security. Since the country has one of the highest military expenditures in Africa, most of its income comes from foreign assistance, although its economy has grown significantly since 1995. With a population of 921,804 and a total area of 23,200 square kilometers, Djibouti is ranked number 15 of the top 20 richest countries in Africa. Next is Côte d'Ivoire with GDP per capita of $5,640. Côte d'Ivoire is bounded to the north by Mali and Burkina Faso, to the east by Ghana, to the south by the Gulf of Guinea, to the southwest by Liberia, and to the northwest by Guinea. Côte d'Ivoire has enjoyed vibrant, robust, and stable economic growth since 2012, but experienced a slowdown in 2020 owing to the COVID-19 crisis. The country nonetheless remains Francophone West Africa's economic hub and exerts significant influence in the region. Côte d'Ivoire's score on the World Bank's Human Capital Index, 0.38, improved slightly in 2020 relative to 2019. Poverty fell sharply from 46.3% in 2015 to 39.4% in 2020, but this decline was confined to urban areas as rural poverty levels rose by 2.4% over the same period. Côte d'Ivoire is number 14 on the list. 13 is Ghana with GDP per capita of $5,970. Ghana's economy contracted by 3.2% and 1.1% in the second and third quarters of 2020, respectively, pushing the country into a recession for the first time in 38 years. However, a modest growth of 1.1% is for the full year of 2020 thanks to a strong 4.9% growth in the first quarter of 2020, at the onset of the COVID-19 crisis. The 1.1% GDP growth in 2020 is a steep fall from the pre-COVID-19 levels of 6.5%. Ghana's economy mainly relies on producing and exporting gold and cocoa, which account for more than half of its total exports. The country has a small manufacturing industry that produces essential consumer goods such as cigarettes and food products such as canned fish and processed meat. Another country ranked number 12 is Angola with GDP per capita of $6,880. Angola is one of the largest oil producers in Africa because it has abundant mineral resources, which are considered an essential contributor to its economy. The main exports from Angola are diamonds, petroleum products, and cocoa. Angola's economy mainly relies on oil extraction, agriculture, construction, and manufacturing, accounting for about 70% of the GDP. Most Angolans are employed in agricultural activities that contribute to about 40% of the country's GDP. Although Angola is one of Africa's largest oil producers, it still struggles to meet its basic needs. 11 on the list is Morocco with GDP per capita of $8,030. Morocco is one of Africa's best economies mainly because it has a diversified economy driven by the export of agriculture, mining and manufacturing products. Morocco has a significant influence on African affairs because of its proximity to Europe, especially Spain. On the economic front, the shock of COVID-19 has pushed the Moroccan economy into its first recession since 1995. Economic output contracted by 15.1% in the second quarter of 2020, primarily due to the lockdown, and a sharp reduction in exports caused by the pandemic's disruption to global value chains, and the collapse of receipts from tourism. The shock to supply and demand, triggered by the pandemic, has been compounded by the fall in agricultural production due to a severe drought. Although activity picked up in the third and fourth quarters of 2020, the government's preliminary estimates indicate that Morocco's real GDP contracted by 7% in 2020, leading to an increase in unemployment from 9.2% to 11.9%. The shock to supply and demand, triggered by the pandemic, has been compounded by the fall in agricultural production due to a severe drought. Although activity picked up in the third and fourth quarters of 2020, the government's preliminary estimates indicate that Morocco's real GDP contracted by 7% in 2020, leading to an increase in unemployment from 9.2% to 11.9%. Next on the list is Namibia with GDP per capita of $9,540. Namibia is a small country of about 2.5 million people, with a long coastline on the South Atlantic, bordering South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, and Angola. It is the driest country in sub-Saharan Africa and is rich in mineral resources, including diamonds and uranium. Namibia is largely dependent on investments in mineral extraction and government spending and has suffered from falling commodity prices, weak growth in key trade partners, Angola, South Africa, and tight fiscal policy on the back of the government's effort to rebalance public finances. Namibia is number 10 on the list with GDP per capita of $9,540. Tunisia is another country on the list. Despite having a relatively small population of about 12 million people, Tunisia also significantly influences African affairs. It has one of the highest currencies in Africa. Tunisian exports mainly include clothing and textiles, chemicals, semi-finished goods, electrical equipment, and transportation equipment. Tunisia's land resources are limited because of the aridity of the Sahara Desert. However, Tunisia has human resource potential, making it attractive to foreign investors such as Germany and Italy. Tunisia's economy mainly relies on tourism, manufacturing, and mining, which account for about 15% of the GDP. Tunisia's economy has been doing well because its economic policies have effectively created a stable financial environment that has encouraged foreign investments. Tunisia is number 9 on the list with GDP per capita of $10,590. Algeria is number 8 on the list with GDP per capita of $11,430. Algeria is one of the wealthiest countries in Africa. Algeria has a significant influence on African affairs despite having a relatively small population of about 44.9 million people, ranking 34th. Algeria's economy mainly relies on hydrocarbons and manufacturing, which account for about 60% of the GDP. Hydrocarbons contribute more than 95% to exports and 75% to government revenue. 7 is South Africa with GDP of $12,440. South Africa has made considerable strides to improve the well-being of its citizens since its transition to democracy in the mid-1990s, but progress has stagnated in the last decade. South Africa's economy mainly relies on transport equipment, processed minerals, chemicals, textiles, and food products, which account for about half of its GDP. The industrial sector makes up the most significant part of GDP, accounting for over 35%, and minerals, mainly gold, diamonds, and coal, account for 90% of exports. The country has a lot of resources, such as iron ore and chrome, which makes it one of Africa's wealthiest countries. However, these resources have not been used efficiently, and the economy remains in flux. Number 6 is Egypt with GDP per capita of $13,080. Egypt is a country in North Africa bordered by the Mediterranean Sea to the north, Israel and the Gaza Strip to the northeast, the Gulf of Aqaba to the east, Sudan to the south, and Libya to the west. It is one of the top 20 richest countries in Africa per capita, with a strong African currency. Egypt has an ancient history that dates back thousands of years. Because of this, it is widely considered to be the foundation of human civilization, which has helped Egyptians become the top 5 populous countries in Africa. Egypt mainly relies on agriculture, media production, construction, tourism, and transportation. About 50% of Egyptians are employed in agriculture. However, its agricultural sector only contributes 23% to the GDP. Agriculture accounts for just 16% of GDP and employs 25% of the workforce. 5th is Madagascar with GDP per capita of $13,720. Madagascar is an island nation located off the coast of East Africa in the Indian Ocean. One of Africa's top 20 richest countries per capita. Madagascar's economy mainly relies on agriculture, which accounts for about 40% of the country's GDP. It is one of the most biodiverse countries globally, with approximately 5,000 plants, 89 types of primates, 350 bird species, and 60 mammal species found nowhere else. However, many of Madagascar's natural resources are being exploited by foreign countries without the benefit of revenue sharing or royalties. Gabon is fourth on the list with GDP per capita of $16,240. Gabon is an upper-middle income country. The fifth largest oil producer in Africa, it has had strong economic growth over the past decade, driven by its production of oil and manganese. The oil sector has accounted for 80% of exports, 45% of GDP, and 60% of fiscal revenue on average over the past 5 years. However, as the country is facing a decline in its oil reserves, the Gabonese government has decided to diversify its economy. This expected growth will be undermined by the COVID-19 crisis and the further decline in oil prices. The sharp drop in domestic revenue mobilization, exports and foreign direct investment will lead to a major fiscal deficit. Third is Botswana with GDP per capita of $18,110. Botswana is a landlocked country in southern Africa. It is one of the wealthiest countries per capita on the continent. The economy of Botswana has always been based on animal husbandry and has undergone several changes over the years. The country's diamond and beef exports have greatly helped Botswana develop its economy. Botswana is one of Africa's largest producers of diamonds, giving it the third most significant share in dollar value among African nations after South Africa and Angola. Diamonds account for about 50% of the country's exports. Mining accounts for about 12% of GDP, and diamonds account for 80%. 1 in every 4 households in Botswana has at least one diamond ring, earring, or pendant. With GDP per capita of $22,030, Mauritius is the second on the list. Mauritius is an island nation off the coast of Africa in the Indian Ocean. It is one of the most developing countries in Africa per capita. The economy of Mauritius was built on sugarcane plantations, but today it has diversified into textiles, tourism, and banking. 80% of its tourists are from other African countries, France, and the United Kingdom. The government is ballooning public debt to boost infrastructure to compete with its neighbor, the economic powerhouse of South Africa. Mauritius also has a free port regime, which means that there are no taxes or tariffs on goods produced in Mauritius destined for export. The exports from Mauritius mainly include clothing, sugar, and guar gum. Finally, the number 1 on today's list, but before that, if you are new to the channel, kindly subscribe to the channel, like and share the video. Now first on the list is Seychelles with GDP per capita of $26,120. Seychelles is a small island located in the Indian Ocean and situated off East Africa. Seychelles has an impressive GDP per capita mainly because of its robust tourism industry, contributing significantly to its GDP. Tourism accounts for about 40% of national GDP and roughly 70% of foreign currency earnings. Historically, fishing formed the backbone of the economy, with tuna being the primary catch. However, in recent years, Seychelles has developed its tourism sector by expanding accommodation and facilities on the island. Thank you for watching the video to the end. You can request a video in the comment box below by telling us the topic you want us to make a video about. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos. Thanks, and bye for now.